Hello, friends. It is Monday, the 22nd of July, 2019. Welcome back to the 16th week tour of a garden named Bill. Week 16 already. It's been 4 lunar months. Can you believe it? A lot has changed now that we're finally in this high heat of summer. And it feels good. It's still the slowest gardening season I have ever had because of all that rain in May and June. But now it's starting to actually look like a garden. And I've heard that corn is going to be coming to our farmer's market next week, Saturday, which is great, albeit 4 weeks late. Yeah, it's pretty spectacular, as it has been for the last couple of videos. If you just want to skip around and see what interesting produce I have, you can check out the timestamps down below in the description. And with that, let's jump into our overview shot. Well, the overcast is lovely right now. I'm filming this the Sunday evening before this goes live. You can see everything is growing pretty well. The tomatoes over there are 5 feet tall at least. I've got a couple of my squash that have crossed the 5 feet line as well. They're growing at least a foot a week. Some random sunflowers between 3 to 5 feet tall. My raspberries over there have literally crested over 8 feet. Corn is coming in to hip height, and I'm pretty pleased with where things are. Well, I did a lot this past week. Not everything that I had hoped to do, but still a lot. I harvested all of the rest of the beets, all of the spinach, and I thinned out the carrots, probably a third or half of them. And then, of course, I processed all of that. We saved the spinach leaves. We used some fresh, froze some of them. We saved the beet leaves for pesto, the beets for different recipes, including some hummus, which we're going to make. And, sorry, I just had a little fly into my eye. Charming. And the carrots, which are just good to eat with hummus or pretty much anything else. We love carrots. The only thing that I didn't get to do was rip out the peas and then reseed them because we had some really severe thunderstorms that went through. In fact, just 10 miles north of us, there were trees down and giant limbs out. So we got lucky. We just had some straight line winds for maybe 15, 30 seconds before the storm hit, and that was the extent of it. So leaves were going like this, but nothing severe. Let me tell you a little bit about my week ahead. Well, actually, I thought I had something more profound to say, but this week ahead is really just enjoying the fruits of my labors. I've got a couple cauliflower that could be ready if I wanted to use them. When the time is right, I get to reseed this. I want to let these carrots go probably another 9 days until the end of July, and then reseed the 1st of August. But we'll see if I last that long. I'm so excited just to pull them out of the ground. If I do pull them out, then this needs to be reseeded with carrots for the fall harvest. The potatoes are coming really soon. I might check for some new potatoes this coming week. And behind me, the green beans are ready to go. Yay! I can enjoy those now until the first frost. In fact, I have a recipe, I think, for Tuesday or Wednesday that I'm going to use those as the main feature for this delicious green bean salad. We're going to go for a little walk here to look at the vining things planted on the ground. So here the sweet potatoes are finally starting to branch out, trying a different method for them planting wise, but hopefully over the next few weeks they'll spread out and take over much of this space. Over here the spaghetti squash is sprawling out really nicely. This is probably 50% larger than it was last week. And then in the corner, the State Fair pumpkin is coming along nicely too. Essentially a foot or more of growth on this every single week. And I think these lovely flowers are phlox, if I'm right. I saw those coming up and I let them go naturally, and I think they add a lovely touch in this corner. Let's see, a little weed here, let's get rid of that. The only one growing in the wood chips, and it's a monster. Yeah. No need to beat a dead horse, but I figured I'd sit down here and talk about a couple of things anyways. These carrots hopefully will be huge when I pull them, and it was nice to get all the weeds out there. I did a better job of treating this with weeds than I thought I did, so pat on my back there. The cauliflower, we had the first one in a little snack this past week. It's quite delicious. I had wrapped them at the beginning of the last week, and it looks like all the rubber bands except this one lasted. Potatoes, let's see. Let's do this together. Okay, I'm not seeing any new potatoes, so I'm not going to get my hands any dirtier. I don't know if they liked my leaf mulch and compost method. Who knows? Maybe they're just growing underneath and I wasn't searching in the right spot. Whatever. Over there, where you probably can't see in the frame, my cucumbers are past the first little latch on the trellis. It's pretty seeing them climb up. Again, so stinted this year. So from your perspective right now, the camera is directly on top of the spaghetti squash, if you wanted a point of reference. Anyways, the asparagus is doing just fine despite leaning over like this. Again, we had those real strong winds at the beginning of our storm yesterday, but they did just fine, as did everything else. In fact, I'm surprised that throughout the season, more asparagus stalks just come out, which is great. I suppose that's what it's supposed to do. As those crowns that we planted earlier this year are getting stronger, they're sending up new shoots, which will make these fronds, and they just get stronger and stronger for the coming years. That's great. Well, I don't think I told you, but I did officially decide that I'm going to co-plant this with strawberries. Haven't decided if I'm just going to seed it in the fall and see what comes up in the spring, use some runners from my neighbors and friends, if any of you have strawberry runners you want to send. Or if just buy new plants. So your input on that is welcome in the comments down below. Thanks. And my 3 new citrus trees are doing really, really well. No signs of discomfort or struggle, and I'm quite pleased. The tomatoes and peppers over here are delectable. We've harvested a couple of the mild jalapenos and banana peppers, and the Rapunzel tomatoes over there are the first ones to be ripe. So, you know, with eggs every morning, I come out and I pull off 2 or 3 and we scramble them up or fry them. It adds such a nice garden touch, you know, to my scrambled eggs. We've got the pepper, the egg, onion, garlic, what else? Spinach in the eggs. All that comes from the garden, except for the eggs. Well, I'm as corny as Kansas in August, as they say. Anyways, here's the corn, and when I'm sitting down, some of it is as tall as I am, which is good. The blue corn is a little bit shorter, but at least it's coming in. That's the important part. It's starting to feel like a Midwest jungle now that this is climbing up and the vining things are spreading out. From your perspective, again, you are right on top of the State Fair pumpkin and that white phlox I was showing off earlier. So yeah, corn's doing fine. The peppers that I've got planted up here are actually starting to get buds on. I'm surprised that those are doing so well. And then over here are some of the late sunflowers that I planted and some of the early sunflowers. And you know, as I was walking through the garden, I was doing some critical thinking the other day. And these ones that are coming up in the raised or in the bucket are so much smaller than the ones in the raised beds up front. I think it's because of how deep these mammoth sunflower roots are supposed to go, that these are bottoming out at the bottom of the bucket, whereas the ones in the raised bed can just keep going and going and going. And if that's the case, I think these, if they get any flowers, I'm going to be surprised, but that's okay. It was still fun to do. I'm for sure going to use these barrels next year for short, shallow rooted plants. So the spinach did really, really well in those. The radishes are doing just fine. In that far one where the frame is leaning, those radishes I can harvest in the next week or 2. They're just waiting for me at this point. They're the golf ball size that I like. And I think, you know, if the blueberry that I have over there in the perennial section survives through the winter in this barrel system I have, if it survives and is looking good, I might get some more blueberry plants and half barrels, because blueberries have shallow root systems. And the blueberry that I have is a self-pollinator, but it does even better if it has things to cross-pollinate with, so I might do that. Anyways, I'm rambling at this point, so let's move on to a different section. Alright guys, I can't stress this enough. For those of you who don't know, look at this, 6'5" man in perspective. I got like an 8-foot reach. Look at this. These are ridiculous. This is what happens when you get constant rain and cool temperatures in May and June. I've never seen raspberries this big in our area. It's just ridiculous, which is great. Hopefully, you know, these first-year canes will flower and give me some raspberries, you know, in 5, 6, 7 weeks from now. They could be ridiculously abundant, or maybe they're going to be mutant freaks and they're just going to be really green and not have any flowers. I have no idea what to expect. But I can tell you that I am enjoying the bountiful harvest. We've picked over 6 kilograms of not gooseberries. No, 6 kilograms of gooseberries, but like 3 or so kilograms of raspberries so far. And they're spectacular. We've made jams, we've eaten them. Bada bing, bada boom. So, your raspberries ever do this? What do I have in store? Speaking of gooseberries, right in front of you, regular watchers will realize this if you're a keen eye kind of person. Otherwise, go back to last week's video, the week before that, etc., etc., and you'll notice how the gooseberry now has kind of bounced up like this and spread out, and it looks thinner. That's because it's not weighed down with these 6 kilograms of gooseberries that we've harvested from it. Spectacular. They are the best natural jam thing I have ever discovered because of all those natural, they're a great natural source of pectin. So you just, boil your jam for a long time and it really thickens beautifully. And they're kind of a fun thing to do when you're just watching Netflix mindlessly. You've got to take off the blossom end and the stem on every single gooseberry. So, just Netflix binge and do that. You get into a routine. It's kind of fun. Anyways, I just harvested another 2 kilos and I got to make some jam or do something with them. I gave a kilo to my neighbor who I think is going to use them to flavor a mead. And I gave another kilo to a buddy of mine who's going to cook them up and make a syrup. And we're going to have some gooseberry old fashions. See how that goes. So, I said this is at the 5-foot mark. Looks like it's a little bit higher than that, maybe 5.5. This squash is doing well. Everything really is. I've got little watermelons there. I've got all sorts of closed and pollinated flowers here that are doing so nicely. And I have done an excellent job keeping off the squash bugs here. This must be my coconut squash. I can see one on the bottom that's developing. This might be the watermelon. And that's the cantaloupe. I don't know. I forget. They all kind of look the same. But it is a lot of fun to weave these in and out and watch them climb so high. While we're over here, I'll just show you how my beans look. I'll pick one off. This is the first bean that I've picked this season. Ta-da-ta-ta! Isn't it beautiful? Look at that. Can I do the mustache thing? Okay. Oh yeah, it's a good bean. So, that is it. I'm pretty pleased with where the garden is, all things considered. Now that we're past essentially the halfway point of my growing season, well past it, I'm already starting to think of the 2020 garden. New things that I want to add, which we've talked about, the strawberries or maybe some more blueberries, etc. Last week I talked about adding another raised bed or 2 over here. Somebody in the comments said, just do it! And I might! But it's tons of fun, and this year for sure we are going to have a fall harvest, our first ever, because once I replant those peas and redo the carrots, I might even redo the spinach again in another month, making sure that we have things in like September and October to pick that are your usual like May and June spring harvest things. Should be kind of exciting. Anyways, how are things going with you? Hope you're doing well. You haven't had any bad storms by you or ridiculous heat that you couldn't overcome. What do you think about my garden? What do you think about my perennials for next year? Any suggestions? Thanks very much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful week, and as always, happy gardening. Bye, guys.